By far, my least favorite gardening chore is manually harvesting worm castings. So whenever possible, I avoid doing it altogether. Instead, I rely on a variation of the migration method, which takes advantage of the worm's natural tendency to migrate to where the food is. Of course, there are multi-tray vermicomposting systems, like the Worm Factory, that are designed to take advantage of this migration. When the first tray of food is full, a second tray of food is added on top, then a third on top of that, and so on. And the worms eventually eat their way to the top tray, leaving mostly castings in the trays below. But you can also use a similar migration method with a simple Rubbermaid bin setup. To create a second tray, so to speak, I take a large plastic trash bag, cut it lengthwise into halves, cutting along the creases on each side and the seam along the bottom. Then I take one of the halves, and using the worm bin as a guide, I punch lots of holes in it with a pen, at least one hole every inch or so. Then I place the plastic in the worm bin on top of the existing material. This forms the bottom of the second tray. Now that the plastic is in the bin, I double check to make sure that there are enough holes over the entire surface area so that the worms will be able to easily migrate upward. I then add bedding and food on top of the plastic and stop adding any below. Over time, as the food below is consumed, the worms will migrate through the holes to the top where there is plenty of food and bedding. When most of the worms have migrated, I remove the top layer and move it to a fresh bin. I continue to keep the bottom layer moist enough so that the remaining worms will survive and continue to break down any unprocessed material. This process can take several weeks, but I won't be using the castings for another 6 months, so there is plenty of time. I'd much rather wait and let the worms leave the castings on their own than manually separate them. In the spring, I'll use the castings in the garden, straggler worms and all. I'll make sure to mulch our garden beds with plenty of leaves, grass clippings, comfrey, coffee grounds, and wood chips, so that the stragglers will have a food supply when moved into the garden. That's pretty much all there is to it. I'll do a follow-up video or two to show the process as it progresses. I'd also like to hear from you. What approach do you use to harvest worm castings? Well, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, remember, you can change the world 1 yard at a time.